All right, welcome back to the Bolus Maximus podcast. My name is Matthew Taro, and I am here today with my co-host and a very special guest. Hey, Brandon, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you, Matthew?
Well, thanks for asking. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon here in San Diego, but we got a special guest. Can you tell us who our special guest is today, Brandon?
Man, our special guest is reporting to us from Ypsilanti, Michigan. This is my mother, the one and only Diana Saline Rodgers, and I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and let the people know a little bit about you.
Um, of course, I'm Brandon's mother, and I have another son, Bruce, and I'm 64 years old. I have diabetes type 2
Interesting. Interesting.
How long have you been living with type 2 diabetes, Diana?
since I was in my 50s, early 50s,
Early 50s.
How did you
late 40s, late 40s.
late 40s? Okay. How did you find out that you had type 2 diabetes?
Um, I went to the doctor regularly, and she did her blood work. Um, and I guess my glucose was high. I can't remember what the number was. She said, we're gonna pre-diabetes, and she said I'm gonna. She said you have to watch sugar and watch uh, your salt intake, um, and she said don't eat a lot of carbs. And I'm like, so what is carbs? So anyway, she said I'm gonna send you to a dietitian. So the next week I went to a dietitian. She threw all this information at me. And then she said, I'll see you next week. And then the same thing happened. I asked questions, I took notes, but it was so much. And I was just overwhelmed with all the information. And then that was it.
They kind of
She
just
let me go.
handed you a diagnosis and a bunch of information and said,
Yeah.
"Get
Yes,
on with
they
it."
did. And, I just still went about my, kind of sort of regular eating, but yet um, I had neuropathy in my feet. We found out because I was at work walking all the time, and then my feet had started to really bother me, and so I went in to get checked and whatever, whatever. Hybrid tested it, and she said, I had neuropathy in my feet
I got a question. Now, was the neuropathy, this was prior or after you were diagnosed?
before.
Before. So you had the neuropathy before you were even I had the official diagnosis.
Right.
Okay.
So I don't know how much time. I'm assuming 3 months um, went by, and Doctor, my medical doctor took another test to check my glucose levels and my A1C, which I still didn't know what it was. And then she said, "You had," and I'm like looking at her like, "Okay, yeah." And I'm like, "Well, what else can we do? Can?" She explained, testing my blood sugar and whatever, whatever. She explained all that, but that was a lot of information.
Yeah.
And I had a family and cooking, So anyway, I just I did it. I didn't do it religiously like I do now, but they told me to do it 3 times a day in the beginning, 3 times a day, and I tried to do that, I do 2 times. And then I still wasn't sure about the numbers. I asked, and I went back to the doctor. I don't know the time frame. I'm bad with something. And she put me in a diabetes class with other people that had type 2. And it was like for a month, you know, I went like twice a week for a month. And that was real enlightening.
You
It's
got
like
to,
12 of us in the room.
so you got to speak with other people who are going through the same thing.
Exactly. And we got a book and we went through page for page for that book.
I'm sure that made you feel good, like
Oh,
that you
yes, it
weren't.
did.
Yeah, for sure. Because then now you're new to the diagnosis, but not only that, you don't know anybody that has it. So I'm sure being in that class, talking to other individuals that either have had it for years already or are just newly diagnosed, you're
Hmm.
able to learn things from them. But not just that, you have like now you have a true support system.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because I go to nutrition class now. And I've been going, oh, gosh. Whew, I don't know. I don't know, maybe 8 years, 10 years. I don't know.
And do you feel like that helps? Oh, I
Yeah,
mean,
because I need that repetition.
yeah, for sure.
I do.
I guess that's where I get it from. I need the repetition too.
And I'm a physical person, and they have handouts and writing on the board, and and
Yeah.
we have physical things too.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
not always the case though, right? Sometimes you get lucky and you get a good group and you get a good teacher and someone who's really going to take their time to kind of go through and explain everything.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it makes it pretty difficult to navigate the healthcare system, right? Do you feel like
Mm-hmm.
outside of diabetes, could you tell me like has it been difficult for you in general? I know you had a son diagnosed with diabetes. What was it like to navigate the healthcare system before your diagnosis and then after? Has it always been the same, or has it been a challenge more so after the fact because you have more to deal with? How has dealing with the healthcare system, like what's it been like for you?
Well, I had to stop work earlier than I anticipated. So I had a Medicare card and a Medicaid card, but it had a large spend down on it. So
Whoa,
where
whoa!
I went,
I'm gonna stop you. Spin
okay,
down. You have to break that down because everybody that's
oh,
listening might not
okay,
fully
I'm sorry.
understand what a spin down is.
A spend down on the Medicaid is when you qualify for Medicaid, but have this where they determine it, the DHS, Department of Human Services, um, saying that like it was like 2 years ago, $1,000. So how many times you go to the doctor? I mean, every month to do this, to get this $1,000 in order to have, making my appointments toward the end of the month. So hopefully, I'm at my spend down, so I don't have to pay the 20% that, you know, the specialist or whoever might charge. And we had classes that we went to that we got credit for. And see, in essence, they took down that spend down. Certain classes like nutrition or wellness or
You got the swimming class?
whatever recovery. They had no, not that one.
Okay.
Recovery class. Well, they groups actually. I call them classes. They groups.
So it's almost like a deductible. Then you have
Yes,
to
it
meet a
was.
yeah, you have to meet a
It's a
deductible.
class from groups that you attended from there, and then you're able to get your food stamps. Otherwise, you don't get no food stamps. You don't meet it, then you owe the 20%.
So it
Yeah,
affects everything. The food stamps, the whole financial. If you
it
don't meet
does.
the spend down, then it affects everything, which could be,
Yeah.
Honestly, it could be a life or death situation at the end of the day, right?
Was not that big. A lot of people, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they did that. They did that they did that for years.
Yeah.
And I got with a company that I don't, need to, for some reason, have the spin down. It's just
Mm.
straight Medicaid. But then I joined a Medicare HMO. It started in April, and I tried to. It was Priority Health, and I tried. They told me everything was gonna be stay the same. I'm like my Part D, and I want to go over my medicines and make sure everything. Oh, everything will be the same. Blah blah blah. I went to get some test strips, and they talk about $150. I'm like, what?
Right.
It's like, where are you going to get that kind of money from?
Yeah,
Like,
I never had to pay.
yeah.
And yeah,
So that makes it challenging to take care of your personal diabetes when you have coverage or your coverage is telling you you have to pay so much just to get test strips, right? Like the bare minimum. Not talking about syringes, not talking about insulin, not talking about
right, right. I'm just talking about test strips.
test strips. Yeah. Boy. Are you
And I
taking you
called
taking
customer
insulin?
service, and they said to before I got the test strips, they said to do the mail order.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what? Ah, so anyway,
Do you take insulin right now, Diana?
no, I take metformin.
If
And last year, my medical doctor dropped the glipizide. I was taking 10, and then I kept losing weight, and then she got me down to 5 milligrams of glipizide and metformin. I take 2,000 milligrams, one in the morning, one in the evening. And so then she took it off. I was having lows. I have low blood sugar. So she took the the glipizide off because that's the one that really, really lowers your blood sugar. I'm quite sure insulin people have one too
mhm.
that quickly lowers it. You
Yeah, this stuff right here. It's called a Freza. Works pretty fast.
Mm.
We inhale it. It's interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
inhalable insulin.
Yeah, you don't take a shot. So you put
But
it
you
in
can't do it all the time that's just your rescue.
it's exactly. It's really just short acting. So I take shots right now, right? Like I use these pens.
Right, right. I'm familiar.
Okay, yeah. So I use this one pen. This is Lantus, and I take this
Right.
shot
I'm
every day.
familiar with that.
And then sometimes I'll take Humalog, but if I need to, and my blood sugar's jumping really high, we use those little pods, and we put them in here. They got insulin in this little piece in here, and
Hmm.
and so yeah, so it's like a rescue.
You
So
just get yourself a shot.
instead of giving yourself a shot,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and you just inhale it like that. So it
Hmm.
works. It works really fast. No, disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer.
Disclaimer. Oh, I accidentally didn't have the volume up, but
We are not trained medical professionals. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer.
disclaimer.
We have to
That's
state
all
that
right.
we're not trained medical professionals because we talk about a lot of stuff on these calls.
Mm-hmm.
We're not
But
specialists.
you got to say that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a so yeah. So it sounds like your care for yourself has changed over time. You've lost some weight. You've taken better care of yourself.
Mhm.
Um, what what changed? What was the deciding factor? Was it you woke up one day and said I got to do this, or did someone tell you that you needed to do better or try harder? What changed for you?
Well, the class I was going to every week was nutrition for weight loss.
Mm,
So I would meet. You didn't have to, but I met with the teacher um, every every first or third Tuesday of the week. After, like an hour after class, and so, with an hour and a half class group. I mean, so anyway, um, so we was keeping progress. Somebody was holding me accountable,
Mm.
for my, so that helped. And yes, and then what was it? I, I believe it was 218. I went to the Foot Locker to get my toenails trimmed, and people was coming in to holler at me and everything. How you doing, Miss Simpson? Blah, blah, blah. So then the doctor came and it's getting ready to soak my feet. And then took the sock off and he was like, call the bus. And I'm like, what's the bus? He said, an ambulance. I was like, oh my God, what's wrong? And when I looked, I also was fluid. Anyway, I got my great toe amputated on my right foot. And it was like a really, really bad infection. I did not know
Mm.
because of the neuropathy pain.
You didn't feel it.
I I didn't feel it and I didn't know. And so it was really, really bad. And the surgery was really, really, I mean, they said my kidneys were shutting down and all this. Ooh, yes, yes. But
Stressful.
anyway, um, I was in the hospital a couple weeks and then went to rehab. Yeah,
I mean, the good thing is, I mean, it's never good. I think having anything major or drastically
happened.
change or, something like that. But I know when we had talked about it, it kind of made me, I mean, you're my mom and I love you to death, So when you
Yes,
told me and I know how you are, it was one of those things like, one, I wasn't there, but I do know that Don was there,
yeah,
to make the situation better.
yeah.
It
Was.
wasn't a good situation in general, but it made me feel better that you weren't alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
thank you. Yes,
that
me
made me
too.
feel good. But I could hear it, definitely hear it in your voice. I don't really know anybody other than granddad on dad's side of the family that has had amputations. Me personally, that's the only person that that I knew. So and I would say even though we aren't extremely close, far as me seeing him every all the time, we had a
Hmm.
good relationship. But when you told me, it kind of hit home. It hit home.
Hmm.
Really hard because it was just like you know like the reality of it, you if you don't take care of that and get that amputated, it can go up and it can go up and it can go up. You know what I mean? And that did happen to granddad. So, when you told me, I'm just like, man, like you got to do what you got to do. At the end of the day, I know that's not an easy thing to do or easy to deal with, but I'm just glad that you're fine and you're okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have you had a lot of conversation? Now I know you were probably diagnosed. You were diagnosed before your mother was diagnosed, right?
That was a question I was actually gonna ask her because I feel like it may have been, I wanna say it might have been right after possibly you were diagnosed, maybe, but maybe not. I'm thinking 50s.
No, I was diagnosed already
Yeah, I
before
would.
you got
Okay.
diagnosed.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was I
Mm.
was kinda thinking that because
Hmm.
that whole
Yeah,
when
we
you took
moved and everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
At the old apartment. Yeah.
On Moss Street.
No, before that,
It
at
was
the
in Congress Park,
nope, the other one.
in Village Grove.
Yes.
Wow.
Hmm.
We moved a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so
Yeah.
Diana, let me ask you this: what was your emotions, or what was it like to have your son receive a diagnosis? Now, granted, type 1 and type 2 diabetes are two different diseases. Diabetes in general is it can rock your world.
Yeah.
Um, what was that like to have your son diagnosed with that after you had received a similar diagnosis?
It was heart wrenching. I just, I was just, I was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I passed it to you. I was just still, I hadn't started going to nutrition classes as of yet.
Hmm.
Oh man, I mean. I was just so sorry. I just like, oh my goodness, it's so hard for me and you are a child. How is he gonna manage? But he whizzed right through all that information and got that pump and knew all that information. And wow, I never had to give him a shot. No,
Mm.
I
Yeah,
knew how. I was showed and he showed me, and I watched him.
I think
I hate sticking myself with the needle, twice a day just to, you know.
check your blood sugar. Yeah, I mean, I think the one of the things I remember the whole situation, and I remember, you know, you told me to let you know, like I was urinating, and you told me if it continued to let you know the next day. I did. I called you. You said, "Come home. I'm taking you to your primary care physician." You took me up there to Briarwood Circle. That's where my primary
Mhm,
care was, and we got up there. I think I had to use the bathroom again, and
mhm.
they
You
checked my
did.
urine. They checked my urine, and
Oh, man.
I remember my doctor. I can't remember his name. He was a really
I
good guy
know.
though.
He was good.
Yeah, he was really good,
He a
really good.
pediatric doctor.
Yeah, and then he said, "I need you to take him to the emergency room right now." And you took me up to St. Joe. I mean to University of Michigan Hospital, and that's kind of where everything really unfolded. And I remember I was in the ER, and I was in there sitting on the bed, and they checked my blood sugar again, and it was extremely high. I believe it was over 1,000, and they ended up giving me insulin. And I know you had stepped out in the hallway with one of the doctors, and when you came back in, I mean, you were just crying, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, I just know I didn't like needles, and they gave me some insulin to bring my blood sugar down, and I just hopped off that bed and I just said, "I promise you, I'm gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine."
Got
And
in that.
yeah, I mean, and being that age, and then not fully understanding anything. Obviously, I've always felt like I could take on the world. I think that's just
Mhm,
how I am. But I wanted to assure you that I was gonna be fine.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like we both live with this disease. Even though you live with
Mhm,
type 2, I live with type 1. I try to understand it as best as I can, just like you tried to understand it on my side.
mhm,
I think we have a lot of things in common, from you being my mother and me being your son, and then also
mhm.
living with diabetes. But you know, it's a challenge. It's a
It
challenge. I'd
is.
be lying if I said it wasn't.
Every
But
day.
it's a challenge every day. Like we fight every day. Whether people understand that or not. But I'm I'm just super proud of you, regardless of the outcome of certain things, because you've been able to, muscle it up through so many different situations that people don't know about, just on a personal level, let alone diabetes.
Thank
So
you.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I have to go back to the foot. The next year in April, I had the second toe removed, and it's COVID. So I was on a floor at University of Michigan that they had no COVID patients on that floor. I had a surgery on a month. Came in on a Sunday because my foot was. I recognized the pain. It was excruciating more than the neuropathy. And I told my friend, I said, take me to emergency right now. I'm not gonna go through this again. And I went, and what happens with me, it was a blood blister on the tip of my toe, had a little slit in it, and it got infected.
Mm.
And with me, because I have neuropathy, I clench my toes to the ground or in a shoe just to, back me down. I don't walk with a walker anymore, but I have a cane to
Yeah.
help balance me. So I had that problem before I lost two toes, my big great toe and my second toe on the same foot with balance. But it wasn't as bad the second time. And um, now I'm gonna have this surgery called, I can't think of it, but they snip the nerves in your toes and so that they're just kind of lay there. So, but I could move them slightly. I could move them slightly, just gonna do two toes on the left foot. Yeah, 'cause the blood blisters, I got them again, and I'm gonna keep doing it, and I don't want to lose any more toes. So I'm gonna do this outpatient in the doctor's office surgery. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, I had surgery on a Monday, and they wanted me to go home the next day, and I said no. I wanted to get some more vancomycin. So I got like 3 more bags, and if I had went home, I wouldn't have got that.
Now, what is that? Is that like an antibiotic or?
Yeah, a
Okay.
real strong one.
Okay. So just to make sure you were flushed out and all of the infection was out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing with sometimes it just happens, right?
Yes.
And it's not something where you could have been moving around as much as you could have been eating just fine, and then something happens where your toes are clenched in that way, and you get an
Mm-hmm.
infection, and the next thing you know, because you can't feel it,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a problem. So
Exactly.
yeah.
But it had been doing that, through the years, and the doctor said it's okay, and they would dry up and fall, they would dry up and fall off or whatever, and they were fine. And so I don't know. I'm like, my blood sugars are fine. What is going on? I still don't. My blood sugars were fine. I mean, I went from like 7, maybe a 7, 8 to I'm a 6'1".
Wow. Wow. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
big jump. That's a huge jump.
There,
and I have glaucoma, but not related to the diabetes. And my number, I go every 6 months, so I'm going this month. So yeah,
Wait, so you see an endocrinologist every 6 months? Or
no, I don't see eye doctor at university.
okay.
I mentioned
But I am gonna throw this in there. Do you see an endocrinologist or just a primary care
no,
physician?
just my primary care.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about it a few times,
Okay.
but she said you're doing great. So yeah.
wh- it's it's challenging, right, when you have the diagnosis at home of type 2 diabetes, and you've gone through what you've gone through, and then
Mhm.
like you said, your son is diagnosed with type 1. There are a lot of question marks, right? Because I mean, they have textbooks, but there's no handbook for a parent that is now going to have a child that lives with diabetes. What would you tell a parent or parents whose child is newly diagnosed? Like, what would you tell them, having gone through what you've gone through with your personal diabetes and what you've seen from your son, and how you were still he was on his way out as a young man, but he still relied on you, I'm sure. um,
Mhm.
what would you tell a parent of a newly diagnosed type 1 diabetic?
To get educated about the disease, and and depending how young the child is, but I don't know. Always talk to them about their feet, because they like to run around barefoot, and
Mm,
they can get infected. They get a
yeah.
cut or whatever. And I walk barefoot, no socks, all the time. I couldn't find a shoe comfort enough, with the neuropathy on. So now I wear socks, and then now I wear house shoes.
Yeah,
So
no, it's important.
it still happens in schools for me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm always wearing shoes. I go to the beach, I got shoes on. We'll be
Yeah,
playing
I do
outside, I got
too.
shoes
I do.
on.
I,
Even
I, t-
before I had neuropathy, I had shoes on. I don't like my
I told Matt, it's funny, was I was like, my dad used to always make us have something on our feet. Like it could be socks, but we had house shoes too. But it was like either you
Mhm.
had your slippers on or you got something on your feet, whether it's the boot socks or just regular socks or whatever. And I remember you had your house shoes on, I was like, hey man, my dad used to always say we had to, we needed something on our feet. He was like, man, I got these from my dad. The house shoes he had, they like some OG slippers though.
Mhm.
Yeah, I took those from my father, but that was like, it was more, my parents were in the medical field, so
Okay.
they had this understanding that I should always have my feet protected. But I
Yeah.
just, as you grow up and you get outside and you go to college and you kind of live in a place like we live in Southern California, I mean, you don't have to wear your shoes everywhere. It's the type of place where you get warm and you kind of take off some layers, pop your shoes off. It's easy to forget how fragile
Yeah.
your body is sometimes, uh,
Mhm.
especially living with diabetes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
And I always talk to my older son. When last time you been to the doctor? You get a physical. Because people um, that are not overweight can get it just as well. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
is that
So,
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, I mean, a lot of times it's directly related to how a person eats, what their dietary habits are.
mhm.
Um, how would you say your dietary habits have been, maybe recently compared to what they used to be? Have you
Oh
changed after
man,
after going through your nutrition classes and everything?
when I was working, uh, we had some great breakfasts at the hospital, and we go through the line, get nice sized pancakes, get two, and they had real butter. Slap that butter on there. Put me and one other person. I put a little bit of brown sugar on both of them and put syrup. Now you know that was too much.
Yeah.
And have like 3, 4 pieces of bacon.
You said you were you working at
That
the
was
hospital? Did you used to work at the hospital?
I used to be working your mom, yeah.
So that's interesting because, I think there's these two schools of thoughts. Is that one is that, we got to be very conscious of what we put in our bodies, and we got to be very
Mhm.
respectful of what we do for ourselves. But at the same time, what is available to us isn't necessarily the most healthy of options. So, I don't know how many people you worked with who ended up being in a similar position that you are, Diana, but you know,
Amazing.
if that was available to everybody, everyone's body handles food and your intake differently.
Mhm.
But I think we're at a point now where there's just too much available. There are too many bad things available for you to choose from when you go to the grocery store. There's there's how many healthy options, every aisle's got, and it looks like it should be healthy, or it says it should be healthy, and it is healthy, but it really isn't. There's a lot of that out there right now.
I
Um,
do a lot of label reading too.
yeah.
And it takes a while. I'll be in the store like 2 hours. That's too long.
But I mean, even if there was like, I mean, you can look up the statistics, and I'm sure it's more, but it's 34 million people living with some form of diabetes, or type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes. But there should be some type of cheat sheet that that the I mean, any doctor's office is giving out. I mean, we're talking one in four, 1 in 3 people have some form of diabetes. Like, there should be some type of cheat sheet to make this simple. So if you don't understand everything, at least you have a general base of knowledge to where you don't have to spend a couple hours in the store, to where it's like, oh, okay, this is in it, this is in it. Okay, that's not a good option for me. But the thought process is, and I think when we look in like, um maybe under resourced areas, like, it's the honestly, it's the cheapest thing is the best thing.
Mhm.
That's kind of like the thought process that happens. And I'm not saying that happens with you, but I'm just saying, like, for people in the United States and around the world, it's like the cheapest thing is the
It's the
most affordable, so it's the
it's
easiest,
the
because
easiest.
Right.
economically it only makes sense. It's like, let me
Mhm.
fuel myself with this because it's super super cheap. but it's like
Mhm.
that's just the cheap fix for now, and then there's
Mhm.
and
complications later.
it's depicted as a whole meal,
Yeah,
right? So
like
it's
pizza, like we talked about. Yeah,
but like if you look at like a hamburger and fries and a soft drink, a company like McDonald's or Burger King or In and Out or any of these companies, they want you to think that that's a full meal.
yeah,
When in
Yeah.
reality, there is no nutrition value of any sorts there. Maybe get a little bit of
Maybe the
protein.
bread.
or
You get some protein from the meat. You get some starch from the bread. But
a piece of lettuce, possible.
overall, you get some starch from the
You
fries.
get a pickle, one pickle, it's vegetable.
Yeah,
You get a corner of a piece of lettuce.
Yeah,
and like that's not doing anything. You should be having uh a bountiful amount of greens and lettuce.
Vegetables and fruits.
What's your favorite vegetable?
3 servings of vegetables, 3 servings of fruit.
What's your favorite
And
vegetable?
green beans.
Green beans.
Green beans.
great choice.
Mhm.
What's your favorite vegetable?
Man, I probably would have to go with my granddad's green beans, but we won't see those anymore. Or taste them, I should say. But I'll probably
Yeah.
say I like broccoli and asparagus. Probably broccoli and
Mhm.
asparagus.
Hmm.
What about you?
Zucchini.
Yeah,
But I think it's interesting because everybody's got their own personal, like, I like this, I like this, but then when you're presented with the easy option, something that's real quick and easy, it's like, yeah, let me take this and get out of here. But
Mhm.
I hear what you were saying about the pancakes, and you kind of find yourself in a routine where if they're giving you breakfast or someone's offering you breakfast and you don't have to
Mhm.
pay for it, I'm like, oh, I'm eating all of this. There's
It
no,
wasn't every day, but it was, a couple times a week.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I always make something sweet for the house, every week. So
Oh man, I love sweets. Oh man, the Diana special. I don't even know if people need to know what that is, but it was dangerous, but it was good.
breakfast.
You remember? Go ahead. I'll let you tell the people what it is. You remember
Okay.
that?
The Diana breakfast special. When Brandon would have overnight guests, I would fix it. And at his request, I would fix it as well. It's old fashioned grits with real butter and scrambled eggs and uh, orange juice, milk, and it's called sugar toast. Where you put butter on it, real butter. Only use real butter. Put butter on it, and then I had a mix of cinnamon and sugar already mixed. Put it on there and put it in the oven. Let it toast a little brown a little bit, and bring it out. Voila! And we had
Yeah,
sausage, sometimes bacon too. Depending on what I
Yeah.
had.
it was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
But you can see, in a lot of families, and I appreciate you giving us the Diana special there. You can see how a lot of parents, for a long time, are the ones who are responsible for what their children ate. Now, your son and I have had an autoimmune disease, so that's not the what's in question here. But I used to have something similar. My mother would make, something similar for breakfast. We make pancakes in the house and eggs and bacon. Um,
Mhm.
and I think what happens is a lot of parents aren't always understanding that, like, as a family, right? We talk a lot about, like, if you're diagnosed with diabetes, now the family has
Yeah.
diabetes.
Yep.
Mhm.
Now the whole family lives with this disease.
Mhm.
And so that can sometimes be a challenge for parents, or families, to break from their normal habits. Um, you also learn a lot once you go through those nutrition classes and you hear from a nutritionist
Mhm.
and they tell you about what you should be doing or how to do it. Um,
It's about, and it just comes down to having the right knowledge from the right individuals, because if we're not getting the right knowledge that pertains to, I guess how we're brought up or what we've learned. It's almost like if we've learned a certain way and we need to relearn or rethink or
Mm-hmm.
understand something from a different angle, it's almost like we have to retrain our whole brain and our thought process on what that looks like, and that can be difficult. That's difficult for anything.
Mm-hmm.
That could be for working out, lifting weights. That could be for understanding food. That could be a job. That could be so many different things, But understand when you're used to doing something all the time and then you said no, stop, you got to do it like this. You have to break that cycle or that chain or whatever it is to kind of like retrain your brain to think a different way
Mm-hmm.
to understand. So no, I mean it is what it is what it is at the end of the day.
I like my Pepsi and my
But it's diet though.
yeah, no, I'm talking about before. It was
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
Pepsi, and I liked grape juice over ice
Mm,
and apple juice, And then I'm like, shoot, that's all the calories, which we weren't counting calories though, but that's a lot of calories, and that's a lot of carbs,
yeah,
in the drink. So I stopped because I'm drinking then. Stopped the drinks first.
yeah. And
And
that
I incorporated diet drinks. Now that was a challenge, but I was
it
saving so many carbs, and I could have a little piece of brownie at the end of the day, and I still have a sweet every day. It's
Yeah.
not as big. It's not
yeah.
as big.
Well,
Oh,
you started in the right place, and I think that's one of the important things that if you do what you're supposed to do or do what you need to keep yourself healthy, you need to indulge, right? Life is definitely short, and you need to make sure that you have something that you enjoy. You're looking forward to something every day.
mhm,
You might be working all day every day. You wake up in the morning, you're working towards that little piece of brownie in the afternoon, but
mhm.
you know what,
Mm-mm-mm, so good.
yeah, you got whatever it is, that you find a balance. And so I'm glad to hear that you've done a lot for yourself over the years, Diana. Let me ask you just like we got like one or two more questions here for you.
That's okay.
How often throughout the day do you think about diabetes?
That's a good question.
Um, Sometimes all the day, because even though I take gabapentin for my neuropathy
Mm,
medicine. I've been taking four four times a day, and if I'm not on it, oh, my feet hurt like heck. They be hurting, and it take a while for them to get calmed down. So yeah, sometime all day. I'm doing something or not, and they thriving or whatever. And then I had to get up, walk around. Sometimes I put them in some warm water. Whatever. Oh,
Man,
yeah, try to calm them down. I try not to forget. I got talking clock. I got timers. You know.
whatever you do, whatever you got to do to make sure you
Yeah.
take what you need to take at the appropriate time. And
yeah.
I'm gonna throw a little change up in there. This wasn't
Okay.
expected, but how was your significant other, your partner, um, supportive of your diabetes and you living with type 2 diabetes?
Uh, he wasn't at the time. What are you talking about now?
Just in general, or like where he was and then where he's at now, and then how did he get to where he is now? Was it just a lot of you educating him and so he understood? Because I know, that could be one thing, not wanting to learn or not, completely dismissing it and just not caring. But the other thing is just not knowing and then having somebody teach them to understand, what's needed and what goes into that, most emotionally and physically.
Well, um, Don, my my current partner, he's really great, and he understands that it takes me a long time to care for my feet, and he helps me care for my feet. And you
That's a
know,
good man. That's a good man. Then he helped you check
exactly
your
because
feet.
I thought he would be so weirded out, about my feet. I never wore sandals because I had ugly toes, you know. So, and then I got diabetes and the neuropathy, thick toenails and all that. Oh, I ain't having my feet out. So, yeah, he's been great. And I told him if I fall asleep and if I'm asleep longer than an hour, you need to check on me because my blood sugar could have went too low or too high.
Le-
So he
At
said,
least he
"Well, how
knows.
do I know which?" And I said, "Gotta do this machine." Now I
Yeah,
had to go over the machine with him again, you know,
yeah.
in case I'm too weak or can't do it.
Got mine right here.
Especially when I got mine right there. Especially when I was uh going through what I was going through when I was having the lows with the glipizide because I
Yeah,
just wasn't eating enough,
yeah,
just wasn't my diet has changed. I mean, and I just probably from being in the hospital and the nursing home.
yeah,
You can't just get up and go get a snack. You know,
yeah.
Bell and have them bring me some Jello or something. But so that helped. So when the weight started coming off, and I said, "Oh, okay," but I don't like to cook anymore. So anyway, yeah, what is it?
What um we got two more questions. I'm gonna ask you one more question, then Brand's got one more question for you. So speaking of the technology, right? You don't wear you never seen, I mean, I know you've seen Brandon wear one
Mm,
probably, but you never wore anything like one of these continuous glucose monitoring systems before?
no, no. It said I wasn't qualified. That
Oh,
my that I that my they want to say it was good and my blood sugar don't seem like I'm having issues. But
okay.
even though I can't hardly stand to prick myself.
That's
But
interesting that they're telling you that you, even though they see a number and it's fully under control, but you
mhm,
don't need something that could potentially even help you even more. Isn't that
exactly,
interesting? That's it's coming from somebody that doesn't
yeah,
have diabetes and they're telling you that no, you're
yeah,
just fine, but you're saying that you want to do better and you know
yeah,
that you could possibly it could help you out to do better. Not that it necessarily make you or allow you to do better, but it can help you to better the things that you're doing. And then also you don't have to take finger pricks as
hmm.
often. But some of them you don't have to do it at all. That's interesting.
It was a husband and wife in one of my classes that they had what is the CGM whatever they had type 2.
Yeah, yeah,
And said they only had the Medicare paid for it, but they only had to buy something. I can't remember. They had to buy some component, something.
okay. Do you know what kind it was by any chance? Do you remember?
Mm, mm-mm, I don't remember. That
No.
was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Okay.
Would you try if they gave you the option to use it, you would use it?
Yes, I would. Hmm.
Good, good, good.
Good. Yeah.
Hmm. And I think it's something at the store you can buy, but I'm not trying to buy no.
Yeah.
Not that
No, no, no.
insurance.
And to be honest, you shouldn't have to buy anything. It should be covered by your insurance. You know,
Hmm.
you deal with enough every single day. So the extra burden of having to pay for something to help better manage your diabetes shouldn't even be a thought. You shouldn't
Well,
even have to think about that.
that was for my primary. She wouldn't give me a prescription you know, for
Well,
it.
you can always get a second opinion or option from somebody else too. Don't ever forget that you are your best advocate. When it comes to your healthcare. You know,
From my
so
foot doctor, from my therapist,
mhm.
from my case manager. Who? Not from a foot doctor. Well, he might.
No, you would call and see if there's somewhere else takes your insurance, and you could see them, or you could also call and inquire about it prior to setting up an appointment. Just let them know your situation, that you're a type 2 diabetic, and that you have, whatever insurance that you have, and let them know. And somebody, a nurse should be able to speak with you. Maybe not a doctor, but a nurse should definitely be able to give you some information that could either allow you to set up an appointment to come in and speak with somebody, or
Mhm.
or really just go from there.
Mhm.
Now, now I want to ask you this. This is going to be like two questions in one, and this is the last thing. Um, what advice would you give to somebody newly diagnosed with type 2 diabetes? Let's say someone older, not necessarily like old, but like, someone, let's say 30 and up, or 40 and up, or around the time that you were diagnosed. What advice would you give to that individual?
Um, to gain a whole lot of knowledge about the disease,
Yeah.
and you know, pay attention. Pay attention. It's very important, and that you are not diabetes.
Mm. So you
You
live with
know,
diabetes, but it doesn't define who you are, or what you're capable of doing.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that is not the end of the world, because when people, especially African American people, how you doing? Oh, I got diabetes. Somebody, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm like, Dad, I'm
Mhm.
11.
I'm here.
Don't feel sorry for me
Yeah.
because I got diabetes.
Yeah. I
You
like
know,
that. I like
because
that.
I'm just me.
That's it. That's
You
it.
know,
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
still
not
here.
diabetes. I'm living with it, but that's
Yeah.
not me.
I'm still here. I have an
I'm
opportunity to
still
do
me.
everything just like everybody else. Yep.
Yes. And I don't buy diet foods. I just watch my portion size,
Yep.
because I can't stand that fake stuff. And you already can't read what's in the regular food.
Yeah.
So you really can't read what's in that. So I just moderately, just
Moderation.
I have no
Moderation.
problem with that. I'm glad with my depression and anxiety that I'm not a nervous type of eater or emotional eater. One of those is a couple of those is in my group. And wow, I,
And
you
and
know,
and this may tie into the last question that I asked you, but what do you wish people knew about living with type 2 diabetes? Like, what do you, or what are you proud of, um that somebody else living with type 2 diabetes should be proud of as well? I mean, it could be anything.
um, self care,
Yeah.
having good self care, especially your feet, between your toes and everything, um, and your mouth, your teeth, your tongue. I go to the dentist every 3 months, and she checks you know, my mouth out, and
It's very
yeah,
important.
just self care. Just
Self-care.
be kind to yourself, and it's gonna be okay. It's
Yeah.
gonna be okay. Get knowledgeable about it. Try to get a support group
Mhm.
or something, or reach out to someone else that has it, and
That's big.
you know, learn from them if you still don't know, or
You
call your doctor's office and maybe talk to your nurse or something.
you said a lot of stuff, but one thing, and I know it's something
Oh,
that
I'm sorry.
that
You said one thing.
no, something that you've been through, but I know, and I just want everybody that's listening, the mental aspect of it too. Like, it's a drainer, but mentally self-care for your mental is important. And I know that's something that you've been able to accomplish and overcome a lot of things within your life that is associated to diabetes and that's not associated to diabetes. But living with the diabetes, it does cause this emotional mental roller coaster that that
Mhm.
can that can affect you mentally. And like, you've been able to overcome a lot of stuff in that department. So
Well, you should have saw me when we moved into the apartment, and I had my meds, but I had my glucometer, and I hadn't. I got, about three, but I had the one, and I thought I filled it with strips, and I didn't,
Yeah.
and I didn't know where the strips were,
Yeah.
and that was a trip.
Well, you good. You
Mm,
got him. You got him now. So that's all that matters.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a headache.
Dinah, you really didn't. You didn't get. You didn't. We didn't have to check you today. You did a really good job keeping your answers nice and short and to the point. So we appreciate that. I'm gonna flip the tables here really quick before we let you go. Is there anything you want to ask your son?
Mm, how's your blood sugars been?
It's been a roller coaster a little bit. But I know why. I know why. It's been a little ups and downs. I had a
Yeah.
couple issues with some pump site
Mm,
issues, and um I don't want to necessarily say stress, but figuring a lot of things out, and we know that stress plays a role
It's
in
okay.
the up and down in the ups and downs, but just figuring this thing we call life out, you know,
mm-hmm.
happens. Sometimes it hits us in the face a little bit harder than we expect sometimes, but it's really just how we respond to it, because we're all
Mm-hmm.
gonna face adversity. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
um, but I'm making it. I got my right hand man, but he's to the left of me. But he makes sure I'm good, make sure I'm good, and vice versa. So I'm
I
good.
appreciate that, Matt. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
Because it's
welcome, Dinah.
always nice to be in a group or have a support system. Like I got my partner who's very supportive, and then I got my nutrition class, and it's nutrition for life now is what it's called. We do it on Zoom now, and um, and then I have my psychiatrist and I have a therapist. So yeah, it takes
Get the
a
whole
lot.
it takes a whole village.
It,
Yeah, it does. Well, it's nice to have Brandon out here on the West Coast. Him and I have been having conversations for the last couple of years that put us
mhm.
in this position to be where we are today.
More
Uh,
like around like four,
I'm
three and a half,
excited. I'm
four.
excited for him. He's grown a lot as an individual, but
Yeah,
I've seen him.
I'm excited for it too.
Yeah, he's made a lot of effort. He'll be, he produces all of our videos right now,
Mm,
and he's been doing a lot of video work and editing, and it's
mm,
really been great to see him do all that. So, uh,
mm-hmm.
yeah, he's a very determined young man. Plus, he eats a whole hell of a lot.
Won't he eat a lot?
Does he?
Oh,
Yeah,
we might have to have a part two. This might be a part two. You might have to come back on here. You might have
Yeah.
to.
yeah. I wanted to tell Matt about when you and the professor was gonna do a video game.
Oh, are you talking about Tony? Was it Tony?
I
Yeah,
mean, that could be another time. I don't
we'll
know.
do that. We'll do that another time.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we want to thank you, Diana. It's nice
No
to hear from
problem.
you, and especially as Brandon and I have been doing this, to hear from you not only as his caregiver, as his mother, and as a fellow diabetic.
Mm,
It's really nice to speak with you, and we appreciate
thank
you
you.
a little bit of time you gave us here today. So thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Anytime.
Thank you, Mom, for coming on and sharing your story. Sometimes it's not easy talking about this stuff, but at the end of the day, um, we appreciate you because you I know that this will help somebody out in some form or fashion. It's helped me. It makes me feel good that you're open enough to talk about it, and I know people are going to be um, ultimately open about listening to it. Because diabetes affects everybody. Whether people want to
Mhm.
acknowledge that or not, but one of the things, it doesn't matter how much money you have, what background, what your demographics are, where you're from. At the end of the day, we're all hit hard by this disease,
Yes.
and we should be collectively working together to make sure we help as many people as we can.
Hmm.
But I want to thank you. I love you to death. I just want
I
you to
love
know
you.
that, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Love you back.
All right.
See
Thanks,
you
Diana.
later. Thank you, Matt.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.
That's like slapping.
Keep it 100.
All right, perfect. Diana, thank you so much. We're done.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
That
that
was fun.
yeah, that was good. And then now that we've
Hit
done
the
it,
wrong one.
now that we've done it, we can get you back another time. I know you had a conversation. You talked to Anna that one time, right? You did a call with Anna.
Yes.
Yeah, she's great, isn't she?
Mm, she is wonderful. I mean, just that little bit I talk, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we'll get you back on here one day
Can't wait to
soon.
get out there, to meet you guys.
Yeah, we got it's the sun is shining, my
I
friend. The
really
sun
want to
is
come before
shining.
it gets too hot.
Nah,
Extremely
you don't have to
hot.
worry about
Yeah,
it too
hot
hot in
weather.
San Diego. It doesn't get like super hot in San Diego. It's like
We
the
don't get like 80s and 90s.
yeah, but it's a different type of 80. It's a, like a feel. It's like a ooh, this is 80 degrees. Like yeah, it's not the 80 you think.
Oh,
It
probably
feel
because when we
good.
went to Alabama, it was 100, but it didn't feel like it.
Nah, it's a different type of because you right there on the coast. You got it's different. It's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a
Okay.
good rest of your afternoon. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye. Love you.
Have a good day.
All right.
Thanks. You too.
Bye
Bye.
bye.